Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to tackle an absolutely epic societal puzzle. Think about it. Every single day, factories, farms, and businesses are churning out a literal mountain of stuff. But once all that production is actually finished, a massive, fundamental question pops right up. Who gets it? We're talking about the core economic problem of for whom to produce. It's not just about, shipping boxes around in trucks. It's this incredibly intricate mechanism that decides exactly how the entire output of an economy is handed out to everyone living in it.
Seriously, I want you to just imagine a giant pile of all the goods and services a country makes in a whole year. We're talking everything from freshly harvested wheat to shiny new cars, and even stuff like haircuts and doctor visits. Just one huge mountain of output. Now, what's the underlying mystery here? Who actually gets to walk away with a piece of that mountain? Does everyone just get an equal slice? Or is there some invisible rulebook deciding who gets what? Figuring out how this massive pile gets divided up is absolutely crucial if we want to understand how our whole economic world works.
So, the crucial point is, the whole system runs on a secret requirement, purchasing power. Yeah, in a market economy, goods and services don't just get handed out randomly. They go straight to the people who actually have the money, the income to pay for them. It's pretty simple when you think about it. If you want a slice of that giant economic pie, you've got to have the purchasing power to back it up. If you don't, well, those goods are just naturally going to flow right past you to someone else who does.
Which brings us to a very important, kind of fun term to remember: income earners. To really command what you want from that giant pile, you have to be an income earner. These are the active players in the economy who actually have that magic purchasing power we just talked about. Literally everything, from your everyday basics like bread and milk, all the way up to super fancy luxury cars, is given out based on who holds this income. But wait, that naturally leads us to an even bigger question, right? Where on earth does all this purchasing power come from in the first place?
To solve that mystery, we need to look at what I like to call the deep chain reaction of the economy. You see, purchasing power doesn't just magically appear out of thin air. It's actually completely tied to the process of making the goods themselves. It's like a giant loop. To figure out how money ends up in the pockets of our income earners, we have to trace the whole thing backward right down to the very first steps of how things are built.
Let's move to and see how this builds, almost like a row of falling dominoes. Step 1, productive factors. That's land, labor, and capital. All team up to make stuff. Step 2, all those final goods and services add up to create what we call the national product. Now, step 3 is where the magic happens. That national product generates national income. And finally, step 4, that income splits right back up and flows straight into the pockets of the people who provided the land, labor, and capital to begin with. We call those factor incomes. Basically, you get purchasing power as a reward for helping build the giant pile of goods in the first place. Pretty neat, right?
But here's the catch. Because people contribute different things and the market values those things differently, everyone earns totally different amounts of that factor income. This creates a huge split in purchasing power. We call this the Great Dilemma: the classes versus the masses. Because think about it, how this national income is distributed completely dictates exactly who gets what type of goods from our giant economic pile. It essentially guarantees that the total output isn't divided up equally.
And this brilliantly illustrates what that split actually looks like in the real world. On side A, you have the classes, the folks with a ton of purchasing power. Because they hold a huge chunk of the national income, they get to claim a massive share of the luxury goods and high-end comforts. Then, on side B, you have the masses. They have lower purchasing power, so their income naturally goes toward buying larger quantities of basic, everyday necessities. The market just automatically divides up the goods based on this exact economic split.
So pulling it all together, for whom to produce isn't just an isolated question floating around. It works right alongside two other massive questions: what to produce and how to produce. Together, these three central problems make up the ultimate economic game. We call it the allocation of resources. Every single economy on the planet, every single day, has to juggle these three exact questions to figure out how to best use what they have. It's literally the blueprint for how our world works.
Which leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending thought. You've seen the whole chain reaction now. You know how working and producing generates the income, and how that income decides who gets the basics and who gets the luxuries. But what if you were the one calling the shots? If you were in charge of the whole system, how would you best allocate resources to balance the creation of basic necessities with those shiny luxury comforts? It's a huge, complex puzzle, but hey, now you know exactly how the pieces fit together. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the economic forces shaping our world.